Rocklaz Radio with Tanmay Shah.
Rocklaz Radio.
Rocklaz.
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 Rocklaz Radio with Tanmay Shah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Rocklaz Radio. Today, we are going to the land of Hakuna Matata, Lion King. We are going to the land of Lion King. So, Hakuna Matata, Judy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. From another beautiful city of in Kenya, at the coast of Kenya, Mombasa. In Mombasa, we say Hakuna Matata, but we also say life is pole pole.
What does that mean? Pole pole?
Pole pole means life is slow. So we repeat it and we say you take everything easy.
All right.
Alternatively, we call it Mombasa Raha. It's the place where you come out to have fun. Mombasa Raha.
Mombasa Raha, place where you have fun. And what language is this?
Kiswahili.
Swahili.
Yes.
It's such a fun and optimistic language.
Yes, it is. And I'm looking forward to when the whole of Africa will speak Kiswahili.
Why? Why do you want the whole of Africa to speak Swahili?
It's already half of Africa speaking Kiswahili, so that we are connected more.
Okay.
By our own indigenous language.
So let's, we have a segment about languages. So let's bring that right now. So can you do an activity? Let's start with an activity. Can you please close your eyes for us? Think of your favorite memory and tell that to us in your own language, in Swahili.
My favorite memory?
Yeah, describe your favorite memory in Swahili. Speak in Swahili.
I speak in Swahili. I've said it in a sentence.
What does that mean? Say it in a paragraph. We want to hear the sound of the language. So elaborate. Elaborate.
No, that moment cannot be described more than that, because I'm just saying it was a great joy to set my eyes on my son when I first gave birth to my son.
Okay.
Yes, that was the greatest memory, seeing my son for the first time.
So how did you feel? Describe how did you feel?
Ni kama ni miujiza. Hakuna ajuae. Mungu mwenyewe anayajua. Ni baraka kubwa kupata mtoto. Thank you. That's it.
What does that mean? What did you say?
I say there is no one who understands childbearing. Only God knows. All we know is that it's such a great joy. It's a feeling that you can't describe. Yep.
Yeah. I would never know. I will never find out.
You'll never find out, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe in the next birth.
The next life.
Yeah. In Swahili, how do you describe something beautiful?
The basic word for beautiful, we say inapendeza. Inapendeza.
So
Anapendeza, she looks good, or he looks good, or it looks good. Inapendeza.
Inapendeza.
It looks good.
If you're going on a wildlife tour and you see beauty of animals, how would you describe that scene?
If I'm going on a safari, wanyama wa pori wanapendeza. Wild animals are beautiful.
Okay. Wapendeza is the word. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go to the map and show and find out where is Kenya on the map. And here it is. We are going to the Eastern Africa. Kenya is between, it has Ethiopia on the north, South Sudan on the northwest, Uganda on the west, Tanzania on the south, and Somalia on the northeast, and where where Judy is joining us is this Mombasa, which is in the Indian Ocean.
The
And
coastal
here
town of
is,
Mombasa.
sorry?
It's the coastal city of Mombasa.
Hmm. You're very close to Tasvo East National Park, looks like.
Not very close, yeah, but it's part of the coastal belt, yeah, coastal region.
Where is Masai Mara? It's like people just talk about Masai Mara whenever they're talking about Kenya. So where is Masai
It's
Mara on
it's
the map?
it's south. Look for Narok. If you find Narok, Masai Mara is in Narok County.
Okay, let me
Okay.
just Google it. Masai Mara.
Southern part of Nairobi.
Okay, got
As
it.
you go towards Serengeti, borders with Tanzania. Yeah.
It's on the west of Nairobi and it's very green. I thought it would be like like uh, like savannas, but this looks like actual forest. It's very green.
It's a large landscape where the Masai Mara is a mixed landscape. You find the savanna, but in that same area you find some places that are very wet, so there is wheat growing. That's why it looks green on the outskirts of the reserve in the neighboring lands.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
What do you love the most about Kenya?
What I love the most about Kenya is the people of Kenya are warm-hearted. They welcome visitors.
Mm-hmm.
We take care of our guests. We are not threatened by visitors. We don't mistreat them. We don't profile them, and we don't isolate them. That's why a lot of people find it easy to settle in Kenya after working here for a while, and they make it home. So we're very
Mm.
warm-hearted people. Yeah.
And I've pulled some pictures of the culture in Kenya and the red, which is very significant, which everybody knows this shade, this tint of red.
It's associated with the Maasai pastoralist community, but there are also other pastoralist community that use different shades of red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've got the Samburu, you've got the Turkana. They also have their shades of red. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And the shield they are using, it looks the very similar to the one on the Kenyan flag.
The what? The shield.
Yeah, the shield.
Yes, I think this it's an adaptation, different adaptations of the flag. But our flag has got a shield, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Symbolic of defending ourselves and our nation.
Mm.
Mm,
So this is the flag
yeah,
with black, red, and green, and the shield in between.
yeah. The black
Eh,
for the people, the red for the bloodshed for independence, the green for the land, and white for peace.
Wow, it's one of the creative flags with
Mhm.
cultural depictions. I like this flag with
Mm.
the shields
Thank.
and colors. Wow, and about the people and the culture, I they have these long red robes, and they in this image I'm seeing a different colors worn by women. They're
Hmm.
also wearing these long
Mm.
um necklaces. What is this? What is this? What are these wires like rings on top of each other?
It's part of the attire, the traditional attire of
Hmm.
this community. Then beading and beadwork is an integral part of their culture, and the beads are adorned for different things, basically for beauty for women. But you'll
Hmm.
find that in the pastoral community, even men wear some beadwork, but maybe they wear it in their hands or in their legs. But
Hmm.
women wear it mainly on the neck, in the ears, and on the head. Mainly, again, it's common with the pastoral communities, but it's just a form of cultural expression that's been inherited for it's been there for generations. It's been adapted into fashion items, and now you will find it in runways. You'll find it as beauty items worn by many other communities. But yeah, the beads for the neck, the more they are, the more the beauty, and it also shows the women's ability. You know, the more you can bead for yourself and adorn the beads, and the beads are used for different seasons. Different age sets wear different colors, including for women, the sash that they wear on top. The colors will tell you whether it's a young girl who's married or not married or just newly married or it's an elderly woman. The colors will be different all the time.
So, what colors are for an elderly woman and what colors are for an unmarried woman?
I am not an authority on the colored beadwork of the pastoralists. I just know that they are for different. The colors mean different things.
They
Yes,
symbolize different things in their
yes,
culture, and it gives a
yes,
message to whoever is seeking for that
yeah,
information. So,
yeah,
yeah, go
yeah,
there and ask the tribe. It's so
yeah,
beautiful. I love how colorful the beads are. All
yes,
colors, there are all
absolutely,
colors in it.
yes, absolutely beautiful.
What are these beads made out of?
I think in the olden days they said they would make them out of seeds, but today they import a lot of them from different parts of the world. Yeah.
Plastic?
Yeah, so today you find that most of them are plastic from different parts of the world, but in the past
Mm-hmm.
they used different kinds of seeds from different trees to
Mm-hmm.
do it. But it's been adapted now, and everybody's whatever beads you are able to access. Yeah.
And what about the jumps? These are also something very common people associate with when we think of Kenya.
Yeah,
People
it's
jumping.
not all of us are jumping. Like I said, it's specific communities. This is particularly for the Maasai people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a way of cultural expression. Everything that is done is a cultural expression. For these
Mm.
young men who are jumping, it's about showing their prowess. Some of them, some of the dances were used to woo and attract suitors, a wife. You will be more suitable for the girls the higher you jump.
Ah,
In the past, it was also associated with the one who has killed a lion, the Moran who has killed a lion when they were still killing lions to become a Moran. So these are all just different types of cultural expressions.
what does Moran mean?
A young Maasai man.
Okay. So we all know that Kenya produces the most Olympians winning the marathons and long distance runs. So what do you think causes that?
I don't know. I think they've tried to study this, but yeah, I think adaptation. Humans adapt to environment. So maybe the adaptation to the highland environment, because most of the runners come from the highlands. Maybe their adaptation to that environment has enabled them to build some resilience, but I don't know the science, and I don't know whether anybody knows why.
And do these Masai people who jump for prowess, are they contributing to the high jump medals?
No, they're not. It's different.
Why?
This is a dance. The other one is a
Okay.
sport.
No, but then they would be naturally capable to jump higher than.
Maybe, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Wow. So these tribes which we are seeing are just from the southern region. Where are the Maasai people from?
Maasai people are found in the southern part of Kenya. Some of them are found in the northern part of Kenya, but
Mm-hmm.
mainly they are in the area where we have the Masai Mara
Mm.
National Park, which is in Narok. Then we have another part at the foot of Kilimanjaro called Kajiado. That's
Mm-hmm.
and then you find some of them scattered in northern parts of Kenya, yeah, in Laikipia.
Wow. And what is your favorite food in Kenya?
What is?
Your favorite food?
I think different communities have different favorite foods. Maybe the one that everybody eats commonly is the cornmeal.
Cornmeal. What is
Yeah,
it called?
it's called ugali.
Okay. Is this what you're talking about? Ugali?
Yes, so you can
Okay,
eat it.
interesting. So what are the ingredients? What are the things you see here on this plate?
On that plate, you got just your vegetables, maybe your meat and ugali.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And what exactly is ugali? This white dough-like thing?
it's a cornmeal. It's a dough made out of corn flour.
Okay, so it's just a dough. It's not a bread.
It's a kind of a bread, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
baked. It is cooked over mixed water and flour.
Okay,
Mm.
very interesting. We see this. We even heard of this in couple of other southern African countries who
Yes,
describe.
they do. They call it different things, but it's the same cornmeal. Yeah,
Hmm. Very interesting. What is one thing that you would like to change about Kenya?
nothing.
You love everything.
Yes. There's nothing I want to change about Kenya. The people are amazing. The landscapes are beautiful.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't think I want to change anything in particular. The things that we have ability to change, the natural setting of Kenya, I don't think I would love to change anything about that. Yeah, the beauty of the country.
It's very beautiful, no doubt, the
Yeah.
outskirts and wildlife reserves. But when I was doing my research and couple of my friends who have lived in Kenya, they were talking about poor safety in Nairobi. So some of the people have called it as Nai robbery. It was showing on the internet.
I think if you look at the crime rates in some parts of the world, even the developed world, and compare it to Nairobi, you will find that Nairobi is very safe. What am I saying? I don't think there is any big city that does not have any elements of crime. Okay,
Hmm.
all
Okay.
big all big cities everywhere in the world. When you have 5, 6 million people living in a place, you will find elements of crime. So I don't think Nairobi is the unsafest place to live in. Yeah,
Uh,
it's not. And by saying that, I'm not saying that there is no crime, but I'm just saying you can't call out Nairobi for
mhm.
being unsafe. We will then have to call out many other big cities of the world.
Absolutely. Yes, there are higher
Yeah,
crime rates in the
yeah,
city as compared to the rural
yeah,
part. People are more inviting and they're more trusting. They
yeah.
trust everybody when they comes.
Mm,
And in
mm.
cities, people are usually doubting and people are
Yes, yes,
protective, more protective of themselves.
yeah. And people are surviving, and if they find opportunity, there are those who will go into crime. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Talking about one more thing, which I found a little interesting, was what are your views on the recent law that supports polygamy?
Polygamy is an African tradition that men will marry more women, more than one woman, and there are those people who are still traditionalists, right?
Hmm.
And by traditionalists, I think the separation is that the people who have adopted Christianity, then the principles change. Then they don't go for the faith does not allow them to go for polygamy or go for more wives. But those who are still traditionalists, I think if that is what they confess that they are, the law has allowed them to follow their tradition, provided they do it within the legal constraints. So I think the law is requiring them to declare that I have more than one uh, wife, I have two, or I have three. Yeah. So it's not restricting them. I think it's just asking them to make it official that I am a
Hmm.
traditionalist and I have more wives, and there are two, there are three, or there are four. Yeah,
What do
but
the women? What do the women think about it?
it depends on which woman you're talking to. If you talk to certain women, they will say there is no problem for as long as they are getting along. The women are getting along. Everybody's getting their share. Some of them will tell you that it's a way of society sharing what they have. There are probably more women than men, and so there are certain men who will have to marry more women. Then you talk to the more exposed and educated women, or Christian women, or those who have faith in Christianity, and they will just say no, it's not the right thing to do. That you cannot love three, four people equally at the same time. So it depends on who you're talking to, right? If you talk to a lot of women in the village, in the rural areas, they will see no problem, right? For example, I know that there are communities where it's actually the wife who's there because of the responsibilities and the things that they have to do in the rural setup. They encourage their husbands to go and get another wife because there's too much
Why?
work. There's too much work.
Oh, all right. I see. For economical reasons, for dividing work.
Yeah, division of labor. This work is too much for me. I go to the farm, I look at the cattle, I look at the children, I take care of the house, I do this. So maybe I'm tired. Now you can get somebody else. We share these responsibilities. So, yeah. Mm.
And in general, you have been to a lot of villages and you have done work in the rural areas. Do you see the sex ratio vastly different, like many more number of women compared to men, or is it sort of equal?
I think it's statistics or population statistics show us that we got slightly, just slightly, more women, but we could also have slightly more women because maybe women live longer, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so at any given time there could be more women than men because the women live longer. But I also think that it's not a uniquely Kenyan situation, right?
Hmm.
Where there is populations have slightly more women. There are many more populations that have slightly more women than men. Yeah.
So when I talk to Eastern European folks where there are more women than men,
Hmm.
they give reason of war. Most of the men died in wars,
In the war. Ah,
and yeah,
yeah.
it's different for different reasons. So I wonder
Yes.
what is the reason? Is polygamy the reasons for there being more women than men?
I don't think so.
All right, that's for us to.
I don't have the answer, but I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
we that's open to find out an
Yeah.
investigation. If somebody finds out, do put a link or description comment in the description.
Yeah.
Kenya is has the all big animals and the big five game animals like lions, leopards, rhinos, elephants, and buffaloes. Which is your favorite animal?
The giraffe.
Giraffe.
Yes.
Why?
I just find it graceful.
Graceful. Wow.
I find it very, very graceful in its posture, in its movements. Yeah, I love the giraffe. It's my favorite animal.
Do they get violent? I have heard they kick very hard
I
if you
think
go close to them.
and when they feel threatened, anybody. It's not just animals. Even us, when we feel threatened, when there's a strange being in our territory, we are always on the defense mode, right? So I bet if you get into their space and they feel threatened, they will then react. But mainly they use it to defend themselves and their young ones from predators. Yeah, that's their defense mechanism. Mm.
Have how is it to see all these five big or all the other big animals in one place? Like does it
It's
feel like a Lion King movie?
No, for us, it's not a Lion King movie. It's a reality because we've got natural national parks. They are not zoos. Whether you will go and stop somewhere and see all the animals at the same time. Now you've got to go on a drive, on a search. There's a day you might see so much. There's a day you wouldn't see um, uh, as much. You might end up seeing the big five. You might end up just seeing two of them or three of them. So for us. That is the difference, right? That is the difference.
How would you describe a successful safari?
Successful safari. How I describe one, for me, as a safari is as successful as your open-mindedness, right? When you go to the wild with an open mind and know that I'm in a natural area, I'm not in a zoo. Okay, I'll go out today and I might just see the ants and the dunks and some antelopes and maybe one elephant, a few elephants I might see. The other day I might see just too many different types of birds. Another day I might go out and I will see all the big five. So a successful safari is based on the mind of the person going to safari. If you go on a safari with this mind that I'm going out today and I must see the big five, if you don't see them, you'll get disappointed. But if you go with an open mind, knowing that I'm going to an open natural area and the animals are in their natural environment, they might just have decided that today we are not coming out of the bushes, or they have moved far away overnight and you're not able to find them on the first day. So the best
Hmm.
safari experience is to give yourself a few days in the wild, and every day is exciting and different when you're on safari, with or without the big five. But we can guarantee that when you come to Kenya, you will see them, all the big five. Yeah. Not in one place, not the same day, but you'll see them.
What would you say to people who are watching this and now are interested to visit Kenya? How they should plan their trip?
Sorry, I kind of lost you.
For the people who are watching this conversation, what would you advise them to make sure when they are planning their trip to Kenya?
Mm. Give yourself time. Don't be in a rush. Don't be in a rush. I think the minimum you should spend in terms of days in a wilderness area to have a feel of the wilderness area and enjoy the place without being in a hurry and moving from one place to another is to spend at least 3 nights in one place, right? Then you have the 3 full days you can go out and go to different parts of the conservation areas and have a real complete experience of place. But most people come with the idea they want to tick the boxes. They want to go, oh, elephants, tick. Oh, buffalo. Now where we find the buffalo? And then in the process, they fail to enjoy the entire natural environment. There's so much that is going on in a savanna ecosystem that's just slowing down and soaking it all in, learning about the trees, the different kinds of trees, their nutritional value, their local value, learning about medicinal herbs, learning about how the ecosystem cleans itself, right? Looking at the dry bones and how they, over time, the wearing and tearing that happens from the weather, looking at different animal footprints. And so there's so much to do while out on a safari than just ticking the boxes of the big five. So allow yourself time to immerse in the place, see the animals, but also get to meet the people. So visit villages and see, interact with the culture as well. Learn how these communities live and coexist with wildlife. Look for the story behind the place, the story behind the big five, and the story behind the coexistence. Then when you put that all together, when you connect all those dots, you have a much richer experience than the experience of arriving in the morning, trying to chase out and see the lion and find out whether the things, and then leave out, fly out in another night. You miss the story.
I totally agree with you because seeing wildlife and just coming there to photograph and just go away, you can do have a better experience of that on Nat Geo, sitting at your home and
Exactly.
watching the TV.
Exactly. So, so you, when you come to a place, you need to learn the story, a story of the place. Listen to campfire stories. Ask questions. Don't just click, 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 and then sit on your phone and then send the pictures. And when you send the pictures, when I ask you one question about the place that you visited, you don't even. Some people don't even remember the name of the place you visited. They just say, "I went to Masai Mara," but where in Masai Mara? Because they were
I
just busy with picking out animals and taking pictures of animals. They even forgot the somebody. I remember one person, one guest, one day said, when we asked them, "Where have you been? Where have we just been for the last 3 days?" And he says, "Oh, I have been to Karibu." And we say, "No, because when you arrive, Karibu is a Kiswahili word for welcome.
oh.
So anytime you get into a hotel or a lodge, they will tell you Karibu, Jambo, Karibu. So Jambo is the greeting, right? Yeah. Yeah, Jambo is the hello and Karibu is the welcome. So the visitor said, "I have been to Karibu." I said, "No, this
Wow, that's something very interesting. Karibu, I've been to Karibu.
yes.
When I would rather go and live with the locals and find out about local legends and stories or what things they do culturally or their aspirations or their stories with the animals there. I mean, we don't get to get that on Nat Geo or on the internet. That is
Yeah.
something that you only get to do there.
Yeah, there's not everything can be on Night Geo and internet. Some experiences are better. You get them better when you're immersed in them when you're at the place itself in real time. When you hear the stories of the people and their interaction with wildlife, then you will know that the lion is beautiful and it's okay to follow their families and follow them on night Geo. But when you come to the ground and interact with, see the lions from your safari vehicle, and then sit around the campfire and hear the local stories around the lion and the community experiences around it, then you realize that yes, there is coexistence comes with costs, right? That the fact that lion lives next to people has got some social and economic costs that come to it, and listening to the people and how they have managed over
Can
time to
you
coexist is very rich. Listening to stories of dodging elephants while going to school to get an education in the morning, hiding in the bush while hiding for a long time because suddenly you're hiding and you look around and there are many richer stories around wildlife and place than what you see in Nat Geo.
can you please share such story?
I don't have my own personal experience because I have not grown up in those places, but I have had the opportunity to sit around campfires and hear stories of the people who live there who act as hosts. When you go there, they're going to be your hosts. They drive you around. If you're keen enough to listen to their stories, they have all those amazing stories that I'm telling you about, and how they have survived a near attack by an elephant, and how they have built relationships over time, how they now use the direction of the wind to find out where the animals could be so that the animals cannot get their scent. So there has been adaptation for them to live in the same landscape with wildlife. Of course, then there is some once in a while there is a sad story of a family member lost to wildlife attack in the course of maybe walking from one village to another or out when they're doing their herding of their livestock. There are those instances, but there are also the stories of survival and the near miss. And somebody say, "Oh, I woke up in the morning. Today there was a whole roadblock of elephants in our village, and nobody would leave the house or go anywhere until the wildlife authorities came and moved them away from." So there are many faces of wildlife that you will not see on a wildlife documentary. You can only listen to these stories if you're keen and interested when you visit the destinations.
Have you heard stories of somebody developing a personal relation with a particular animal, like people have with their pets, or are they entirely wild and you cannot
They are
develop
in,
any sort of bond?
they are entirely wild. You will and of course we are not the Wildlife Act does not allow us to domesticate wildlife. So even the guides who work in the hosts and the guides in the national parks, and they've been there for years, there's nobody who can say I have a special relationship with that animal in the park. No.
Okay.
Maybe when it's in a zoo or an orphanage, that happens, but not in the national parks. Yeah.
Yeah. The animal has to be in one particular place, domesticated, and that's not
Yeah,
what it is. It's
that's not what
wild,
it
it's
is.
free.
Yeah, it's wild and it's free. Of course, we do have orphanages, and those orphanages or zoos have the zookeepers, and those ones have a special relationship with the animals that they take care of because somehow they have been a little domesticated to a certain extent. Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm.
Where have you grown up?
Sorry,
Where did you grow up?
I have grown up in a town called Nakuru, and then I have lived in Nairobi since I went to university. Yeah.
So in Nakuru, can you share a local legend or a story that your parents, grandparents tell you?
Oh gosh, I never had the chance to live with my opportunity or the joy of living with my grandparents. Um, so I don't have memory of stories told by grandparents. And Nakuru is not. It's one of the towns in Kenya um, where I grew up. It's not even my rural village where my grandparents would have been living, because
Hmm.
in Kenya we have our rural homes, and then there's places in cities where people migrate to work, right?
Hmm.
So
What
yeah.
about what about a fairy tale or a kids? One story that they tell in school? Because I talk to people from every country, and listening to one of their local stories is quite interesting and it tells a lot about the culture, and it's just fun. So if you remember, it'd
Okay,
be awesome if you could share.
I'll have to think about that. Yeah,
Um,
I have to think about that, but it doesn't come to mind
okay,
quickly.
what about a story of you meeting going to a village and having conversation with people, tribes there, and a memory from that?
No, I only think that but the memory I can share is my first visit to the village, because I wasn't born there. My first visit to the village was when my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, passed away. And I went with my mother to the village, and I think the whole shock around the mourning, the that has changed a lot these days. But I think I was shocked by the amounts of mourning and wailing and how people were mourning. That was my first village encounter,
Hmm.
going to attend my grandmother's burial, and seeing all this traditional way of mourning, and particularly the wailing. And that was very,
How is
new.
it done? What is the traditional way of mourning and wailing?
I think people just traditional way of mourning is that you cry out loud and you speak out whatever it is that you say about the person. You know about the person. You recall memories. You mourn their departure. You praise them. You cry for them. You'll miss them. So it varies from one person to another. But yeah, the traditional way, and people do it differently. People do it very differently. Everybody wails in their own way.
So both men and women cried loud?
Yes,
Or
yes, yeah,
okay, both of
yeah.
them.
Of course, today you don't find much of it, but yeah. Mm.
Talking about weddings is something very cultural to every part of the world. What is one wedding ritual that you find very interesting?
Most of the communities in Kenya do pay dowry, and the dowry payment happens before the wedding. And so the dowry payment ceremonies are very elaborate for different, and they're very different for different communities. Yeah, and I find each one of them intriguing in terms of how they are conducted and what the requirements are. Yeah.
So can you share an example?
There are those who demand that there are some communities that require that the groom to be would have to buy. For example, they would have to buy a suitcase for the girl to carry her clothes when she will be moving to her husband's place. They would have to give gifts to all the aunties of the girl, all the uncles and brothers of the girl. Others demand that the man brings beddings, like blankets and all those kind of stuff. Others demand that the dowry is paid in cows. Others will pay them in goats. And so it's all different. Yeah.
So it's the man paying the woman.
Yes, it's a man that pays the bride price.
Okay.
Hmm.
So I think this is common in Africa, but
Yes,
not
it
so
is.
much in India. It is the other way in India. It's
Mm.
usually the women paying the men. But traditionally, not we don't practice it in cities or metros that much.
Okay.
But yeah, very interesting to know that. And how long does the festival go? Wedding ceremonies.
Most of the wedding ceremonies are one day's events.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a one day's event. The dowry payment is I believe it probably in the past it was more than that, but economic times, people are working distances, whoever is involved, so you can go and stay in the village for 5 days. So it's a traditional wedding dowry payment day, and then the wedding happens for a night. I know for um, uh, mainly the Arab communities and others, maybe it's more than a day. But for the
Hmm.
rest of the Christian communities, it is a day's event for each.
Have you been to a non-Christian wedding?
No, I haven't. I have not
Yeah.
been to a traditional wedding.
How what is majority of the population become Christian or
Yeah, the
still they follow?
majority of the population is Christian. Yeah, more than I
Okay.
think more than 80, almost 90%. More than
Hmm.
80. Yeah.
So you might be seeing influences of the traditions and the Christian way of wedding both fusing together.
Yes, of course, it's been fused together. That's why people still go and pay the dowry, which is almost like a traditional kind of wedding, and
Mm-hmm.
then they come to church and do the white wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, mm, yeah. Mm.
Yeah, let's jump into second segment and talk about you, Judy. What what do you do and what do you love the most about what you do?
I am a sustainable tourism consultant, and I love to travel and meet people and see places and assess those places and write reports about those places on how they're performing environmentally and socially. Yeah, that's what I do.
And what is the best part about it?
The best part is about learning about amazing things that people are doing to save what I call in tourism paradise, because everything that tourism sells is a little bit of paradise. So I think the most fulfilling thing for me in my work is having the chance to visit places, experience all these different places, but also to know that there are people who are going out of their way to protect these places so that they will endure for a long time. Yeah.
Can you give an example of how sustainable tourism projects have been implemented in a particular rural village or a community?
There are many. There are many programs where communities. I think the basic examples are where communities have been trained to become to work in the industry. They have been trained on the job without any prior educational background or training in hospitality. You find that they are performing well as amazing chefs in lodges, and they have just learned. They don't even know how to read and write, but somebody just gotta come to them, and they will learn by seeing how somebody makes the recipe, and they can make it after that. I have seen the breaking of barriers for communities that don't believe that men can cook, and you now find pastoralist men are some of the best chefs in the lodges in Africa. You find that sustainable tourism has enabled women to join the industry, even in the rural areas. You now find safari hosts and guides, safari drivers who are women across Africa in many places. That's not just Kenya, and this is because responsible tourism is calling for inclusion and integration. So women are being included. Those who have indigenous knowledge are being included as guides and hosts. They don't have to have a formal paper of having been to school. So tourism is building their capacity and then integrating them to be the ones who are meeting and greeting and providing service for their hosts. This has only been made possible because of sustainable tourism. Otherwise, in the past, everybody will go out there and import their workers from different parts of the country, those who have gone to school and have the papers, and the communities will be left behind. So sustainable
Hmm.
tourism has enabled a lot of indigenous communities to be integrated into tourism. Some of them have been integrated as creatives, which means they are sharing, they have been given opportunity to share their cultures with visitors as they preserve their cultures in the best way that they want to share it. So nobody's really being left behind. Where sustainable tourism is in destinations, nobody's being left behind. The communities, host communities, are being given a good chance to participate. And I'm saying that this is the least of the basic things that sustainable tourism has done. But we also know that there are many other opportunities where education has been supported through sustainable tourism. And communities have had a chance for education through infrastructure, building education infrastructure like schools, providing facilities in those schools, providing bursaries to meet the cost of education, and just opening a new opportunity and space for these communities to be able to go into other careers and also become part of transforming their communities. Healthcare, access to water, reduction of energy poverty and water poverty in tourism destinations is because of responsible tourism again, where tourism fills in the gap for the communities. So there's a lot, and that's just for people. And then there's the whole element of trade and doing business with the community, encouraging them to start businesses so that they can be suppliers of. So growing the volume of trade with communities is another positive of sustainable tourism. Then we have the entire and all the environmental side of supporting conservation, supporting research on species, supporting programs to reduce human and wildlife conflict, managing the science so that human beings don't encroach too much on the wildlife species. Sustainable tourism has enabled tourism to identify which ones are wildlife corridors or sensitive ecosystems. And so tourism is removed away, built environment is removed away from those sensitive ecosystems. Today, forward-looking tourism businesses are conscious about their carbon footprints, and they're doing all that they could to minimize that carbon footprint in those destinations. So there are amazing things that are being done here. Empowering women is big time in responsible tourism. We have seen in Africa today, in many places where we have all women ranger squads, which means we've got a team of women ranger squad out there in the wild protecting wildlife by themselves, right? We have seen lodges in Africa that are run by 100% women run, from the manager to the last person, doing whatever menial job that are there. So we've got lodges that are 100% women run. And these are women who are from those villages and did not have other opportunities before. I'm not talking about privileged women from the city who have gone to school and come back to the village. I'm talking about women who have been integrated through apprenticeship and other systems of learning and have become amazing at what they do and now can provide the services. So the list I will say is that sustainable tourism has created thriving rural economies by giving opportunities to everyone and also improving the quality of life. In general, I say there is managing water poverty, managing energy poverty, contributing to access to education, retention, and transition through the education systems, through different types of support, from infrastructure to providing tuition bursaries to providing feeding programs in schools, to paying salaries of teachers so that there can be quality education, to buying the necessary training material that is required. And I think if this were to be quantified for the African continent, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, if this was to be quantified, the input of responsible tourism in transforming rural communities, many governments in Africa will be shocked at what tourism has done. Many of them will be shocked at the input and the transformation that has been done by responsible tourism to transform these communities. But because there is we don't have systems where you can have these investments quantified and put together, even just for Kenya, if we were just to quantify the contribution of tourism to education in the last 10 years, I think it will take us, first and foremost, we will have a whole year or more of doing research and collecting that data. And when we have it, it will be amazing. It will be truly amazing. So the power of sustainable tourism to transform destinations has been demonstrated, but it is yet to be documented properly.
I really love and respect what you're doing and the research you have and the hard work and time you have put into this. I also know that you have developed online courses so where people can go and join and learn about it. And as you're speaking, I just realized that tourism and wildlife seems to be a USP, unique selling proposition for Africa as a whole continent because of so many natural resources and wildlife present there.
Mm,
No, people around the country or around the world have different USPs, suppose in technology or manufacturing and stuff like that. But
mm,
inherently, you have natural resources and wildlife which can be made use of and systematized. And as you mentioned, it's so wonderful to see, as you describe sustainable tourism, taking the indigenous local people
mm,
and improving all the infrastructure there, using and training all the local people, not somebody from the cities or who has come and learned and shifted. Very integrated. This, what you're doing, can be replicated around the world, especially in India, because there is a
yes.
huge, there are so many villages and towns here that could use some of the tips that you're sharing.
Mm,
So, next question I wanted to ask you is, if I'm a volunteer or any volunteer is listening to this, who takes up a responsibility that there is this village I know, I want to go there and
mm,
develop it
mm,
and make it sustainable and improve the tourism there.
mm.
What are the steps you would want them to take in the beginning?
I think the first step is to get what I normally call tourism works best when you get a community license. So the community must understand tourism. And by community license, I just mean you get a community approval. Is this something that the community wants to do?
Consent
Um,
of the community. First, ask if the village is
yeah,
interested or no.
yes, yes. Is this something that they want to do? And you don't just ask them by telling them what the benefits are, because then you will be guiding their thinking.
Hmm.
You start this conversation by describing what tourism is, not the benefits of tourism. Yes, this is how tourism happens. This is what tourism demands. Tourism takes away, it restricts access to places. Okay, tourism introduces foreign cultures. All right, tourism takes away certain rights from you for certain places, so that you can only access them. Tourism brings in other people and other businesses. Okay, tourism can be a strangler. You know, it can actually come in and find that there was one cafe, and in 10 years you find 20 cafes. What does that mean? It means that the local shops have disappeared. They have been bought off by tourism. Tourism changes people's lives and lifestyles. You find that in a village, in a fishing village that adopts tourism, suddenly the fishing boats are now not for fishing, but they're for excursions. And if there's no balance between fishing and excursion, suddenly there's a new problem, because now the source of protein for the community has been cut off. Because if a fishing community always sells some and keeps some for their families, so their families have a source of protein. Now, if you introduce tourism in this fishing community and say, oh, you want to integrate tourism into the fishing community so that you can offer fishing excursions, if you're not careful and not think about the fact that you need more people and more boats, then you use the same boats, you will suddenly have cut the source of protein for certain families. And therefore, you will have introduced a new problem for the community, malnutrition in children. And the visits to the hospitals become more. The cost of healthcare increases. You might be seeing the tourism revenues, but you will not realize that actually it is now being spent on treating malnutrition. And also, so it's a whole ecosystem that you must make the communities understand, especially if you're going to a village and want to introduce them to tourism. Make them understand the whole ecosystem. Let them be the ones, yeah, that do the diagnosis. If this happens, what do you think will happen, and what do you think will happen? So go through a diagnostic process with the community completely, so that they understand how this is going to translate in their day-to-day lives. If they understand this, then you can move to a next stage where you now have the community license to operate to try tourism has been given. Now you have to go to the next step where you have used all these global examples of tourism, but every destination is so unique. Now you have to go to a process where you have to now co-design with the community. What is it that will work for us? We can't copy the tourism that works in Masai Mara or in Mombasa and just say because we're a coastal town, this is how it happens in Mombasa. This is how. No, every place is unique. Its needs are unique. It might be that in this community, the women don't want visitors before 10 o'clock in the morning because before 10 o'clock, they have other things to do and they can only host and accept visitors in their community after 10 o'clock. It might be that they don't want to see a club within their community. So the tourism, you might then think that, okay, if they don't want a club, so what is it that is the alternative? And this is what I call designing, co-designing the experience that the community wants to share. How much do they want to share? And in what format do they want to share it, right? A lot of times we go to help communities to start tourism. We sell them the positive things. We tell them visitors will come, you'll get revenues or whatever. And then we tell them this is how it works. We've got to build a lodge here. We've got to build a hotel here. We've got to do these things here. And then tourism becomes disruptive of people's livelihood. By nature, tourism is a disruptor. There's no destination that takes in tourism and remains the same unless the designing stage was done very well. And that's why I use the word designing the experience and not planning the experience. Because the planning has a tendency to make a lot of reference to what has been done. Designing starts from a clean slate. So we
That
are, yeah.
that brings up two more question, because
Yeah.
as you really spotted out, it's not just going and telling about the advantages. You need to make them aware about all the things that are going to change. Their lifestyle are going to be changed after that process. But by human psyche, usually people are very resistant to change.
Yes.
So if you don't tell them the advantages, or if you share weaknesses and advantages, they might not be interested to change. So what
No,
do you do?
I don't say you don't tell them the advantages, but it is not the selling point. Yeah? It
Hmm?
is not the whole story. You don't come by saying, tourism brings revenue. You say, this is how tourism happens. Okay? This is how tourism happens. Before it brings those benefits or whatever, this is the basic that happens when tourism comes. Tourism is like I already give the things that happen with tourism. Tourism changes situations. It comes with restrictions. It comes with
Mm-hmm.
introduction of new cultures. It comes against those other things that appear as benefits. And so you look at your situation and say, what is it that we're willing to let go? What is it that we're willing to share, right?
Mm.
With tourism. What is it that we absolutely don't even want to share? We don't even want tourists to get near there. We don't want tourism to disrupt this or change it in any particular way. So, for example, a community say we have a sacred forest. There's no way that tourists can go in there. That one we are not sharing with the community and with the tourists. And if we are to share it with the tourists, this is how far they can go. There
Mm.
are, I'm giving that because there are certain sacred forests in Kenya where the tourists are allowed only up to a certain point. And even as you go in there, you must go in there in the traditional way. They will dress you up with what you need to wear. You must wear black clothes as you go in there as a way of honoring their gods and all those kind of things. And when visitors are gone every so often, they do a cleansing. But even then, the visitors have only been allowed up to a certain extent. And where they really do their rituals, they don't allow the visitors to go in there, into sacred forest. So that's what I'm saying. In this stage is when you design, you're setting all these limits. Yes, you need the revenues, you can get money out of it, but to what extent are you willing? What are you willing to trade off for tourism? It's not
So
it's not
when
it's not to deny them the information on what the benefits are and what the risks are.
Mhm. So we start with the design process and start with asking ourselves and in the villages and the local of what do they want and what they are not acceptance. I mean, what
Mm,
they can accept and what is a no. What
yeah.
is a yes and
I
what is
think
a
the
no.
first question is, do we want? Can we? Shall we?
Okay.
Yeah. And if we
Uh,
if we want it, shall we? How do we do it? And that's where you get to the place of now. We have seen everything, we understand everything. We think we need it or we want to have it. And if we want to have it, now let's design the way that we want to have it that would work best. That would work best for us. I have been to places where tourism communities where the process did not go beyond the discussion stage because after listening and everything else, the women just said no, we're not ready, we don't want, not in our village.
mm,
But if you did not ask them, if you did not have that dialogue with them, you would have just come and say, no, tourists will create job and whatever, and then yeah.
so true. This is actually like what insights you are giving is from an expert. It's such an honor to hear grassroots level insights from you who has been in this industry since a very long time and seen everything from the start to the end. So after the first stage and the second stage, when you want to discover what is unique about that village or what can be promoted or what can be banked upon, how do you find that uniqueness in that village or that tourists might or would like to come and enjoy?
I think that is why I'm talking about co-designing, because the community now has to say, what is it that we want to share? Yeah. If we want to share certain elements of our culture, then we start thinking, what is an exciting way of sharing it and still it remains authentic, right? Do we want them to come inside the houses where we live to experience how we live, or we want to showcase it to them so that we will build sample houses where we go and show them how it is that a traditional home will look like, the kind of food. Do we want to then offer them a tour of our homes and offer them food so that we can make the food with them and eat it with them, or make it by ourselves because we want the privacy of making it and serve it to them? These are details that a lot of investment programs don't go into because sometimes you find that tourism is developed from the national level. The investment plan for tourism development comes from the national government. And they
Mm.
think that there's a beautiful place in that village, there's a beautiful forest there, there's a lake down somewhere there, there's a mountain. And they sit and plan and write an investment plan and tell investors there's a land for investment near that lake, there's that mountain. And when these people come and they design or plan what they're going to do, they don't engage their community. And therefore, sometimes you even lose out. And that's why these days you hear a lot that experiences are not authentic.
Mm.
For as long as you don't involve the people, don't expect an authentic. If it was not co-created with them, don't expect to give an authentic. It's a replica of what would be in that village or in that community or in that particular environment. So I believe that the best way to pick out your uniqueness, the uniqueness of the service or the product that you want to share and take to the market, or you want the community to take to the market, is to involve them in it and discuss how you're going to offer it. And I've given an example of culture. You can
Mm.
have culture where you can allow people into the homes where you live, or you can have
Mm.
culture where they go and experience it in a center, in a
Mm.
cultural center. You can give them the food to eat, or you can invite them to come and cook with you. You can take them on a safari in a vehicle, or you can invite them to walk with Masai Morans the way they walk in the wilderness areas, to come for a walk instead of going for a drive, because they know the landscape and they can still, like I say, they have the skills over time to know that the animals, if the wind is blowing in a certain direction, they have to walk the opposite direction, because then their scent will not get to the animals. So it's, you can't do these things if you don't talk and work with the communities. You can't
Hmm.
create real, unique, authentic experiences.
Talking about unique and authentic experiences when planning from a national level or from people sitting in metros planet, they'll be like, okay, there's a water body, let's bring in some boats and
Oh,
slides
yes.
and some these inflatable amusement park type
Ah,
things, and people can come and enjoy, and let there be some hotels and
mm,
food, and they'll only get those McDonald's and all those things that they already get in the cities and plant
mm,
them there.
mm.
And then they think that this is a feasible model because it has worked in other
Yes.
places also.
Mm,
But after we have discovered the uniqueness in our own village,
mm.
how do we promote it so that it becomes feasible or it attracts tourists? The authenticness attracts tourists because some,
After,
as a tourist would usually go and do things that they have already heard about, or that they have heard from people that they have done it. They
yeah,
might not go to something new very easily. Or how do you promote a unique authentic village experience which is
you
never seen or done before?
you have to connect it to an you must, in the process, after you have designed your unique experiences, your next process is coming up with an implementation plan. And your implementation plan must include connection. How are you connected to existing circuits? How do you want to connect with them? Which means you must identify who is close by and whose experiences can you complement, right? So you must map your area. You must do a proper mapping of your area, because these other places will help you to market your new experience that you have created. So map your area, know where you are operating, who is the closest, what are they doing, which you would have done, and then you say, how are we different from them? Can we have an extension of their visit first? Can we tell them that when you have visitors, you can bring them to us for half a day, and we will teach them how to weave. Okay, we will teach them how to make mats. You find out your uniqueness and make it complement what is in the neighborhood in terms of the tourism circuits. I believe that is the traditional way, by word of mouth, so that your neighbors who are where tourism is will already know that you exist. Then, of course, in part of your implementation, you will have to find out where is the investment money coming from? Yeah, we need a ground plan. How are we going to promote this? Are we selling it ourselves through social media? Are we looking for influencers, our local influencers? How are we going to promote this? It's a big question. After you have done the core designing and now you're in the implementation stage, as you discuss the investment, you will be discussing the promotion, the marketing, and the sales, and how that is going to happen. The best that I've been given is that the first way is word of mouth, and word of mouth will help you most if you connect with the nearest tourism establishments and let them start sending you visitors, even for very short visits, not for night overs and all those kind of things. Until then, they will be the ones who will now take you to the market, because as soon as they find, if you do a farm trip and they find that this is exciting, this is unique, they can come to us. They're the ones who will start talking about you, and their guests will start talking about you. There's no
Hmm.
better marketing than word of mouth. So find opportunities as much as possible, instead of investing a lot of money at the beginning in brochures and in whatever. Invest in relationships that will
Hmm.
promote you through word of mouth.
Invest in relationship and focus on word of mouth. And
Yeah,
very importantly, you mentioned complement activities to a already existing tourism
exactly.
hotspot.
Yes.
But what in a case if the village is nowhere near a tourism hotspot? Like, for
Mm,
example, India. Most of
mm,
the foreign tourists coming in here go to Jaipur or these common places, Mumbai, and these cities which they usually go to. But
mm,
India is such a huge country, and if you go to the rural side, There are even smaller villages that have never been or touched before, and nobody has ever been there.
Mm.
So, and it might be quite far to reach out. How does one promote that?
I
Or
think I think then you just gotta promote this as really exclusive and outstanding remote places. There are there are many platforms online that look out for these kind of places, and they promote them and include them in their portfolios. There was a very successful program run by a Dutch woman in Kenya, but I think she tried to sell out. I don't know whether she's managed to. It was a platform called I Like Local, right? So anything that was local and authentic and in the villages and all that will be listed in I Like Local. And I know in many countries you find this kind of platforms that are trying to promote rural, authentic places, remote places, without charging them much fee, right? Maybe they get their money from bookings for people who come to book through the platform, but they list for free, right? So these are some of the platforms that you would have to go to, look at them and where they exist locally. These digital guides, guidebooks that exist online also help with this kind of promotion. But we're also living in an information age where it is now possible to get out information very easily through the phone on different social media places. People have revolutionized. I know places in Nairobi where TikTok, without them ever advertising anywhere or spending anybody's money, they just went on TikTok and got one or two people to talk about the place, and suddenly some of these places are fully booked throughout the year. So
wow.
the information age has helped this kind of places, this kind of rural experiences, remote experiences. They can find their way online very quickly. The word travels around so fast, and people travel. There's curiosity amongst travelers for discovering new places.
Hmm.
And this curiosity, if the information is available in comfortable levels, because you need to know what people want to hear. How do we get there, right? Is it accessible? Is it easily accessible? If it's by road only, are the roads okay? Is it safe to go? What is the best time to go? And all those kind of things. Is it connected in whatever way, by rail, by road, by air, so that I know that I can quickly move from one place to another? I've found that when a place is connected by road, by rail, or air, or sea, and that connection is safe, there's no place that is remote again, provided people can get there. I once did a very unique assessment in an island on Lake Victoria. And until today, I tell people about it, and people say, is there a place like that? And I tell them there's a small island in Lake Victoria called Rubondo. I flew in there using this very small aircraft, and then by boat to the lodge. And I did go there because of my work of assessing some of these places for how sustainable they are, and just discovering what they're doing, and why they're in these very unique places. Now, I was surprised that I went there and they were fully booked. They had guests, they have scheduled flights. It's in the middle of nowhere, and when you get to the island, it's all forested, and they say there are gorillas in that forest. There are elephants, and I asked them, how did they get here? How did the gorillas? How did the elephants? How did they get here? Who brought them here? And
Yeah.
the lodge said, when we came here, we found them. So we don't know who brought them. But
Wow.
we came here and we found them, and it's full of It's full of hippos and crocodiles and
That's
yeah. So
beautiful.
people will find those hidden places. They will find them. They will visit them because of the information age that we live in. Nothing can be hidden for so long, for as long as it meets the interests and curiosity of the traveler. So I'm no longer worried about places being discovered. I'm concerned, are they good enough? Are they good enough? And if they are good enough for consumption, then somebody will find them and somebody will go to them.
You know, talking to you, thinking aloud, I am now thinking maybe in 5-10 years I want to adopt a village and grow or maybe uh, develop a tourism in some place near me or where I've grown up. That'll be so cool. I'm excited for it, looking forward to it.
Excellent.
You mentioned good enough. What do you mean by good enough for tourism to grow?
Good enough for tourism to grow means that there's something that is absolutely unique, right? Um, that would excite the markets and the consumers. Good enough means that people feel safe to be there. They can get there. Like I said, good enough means it's accessible by air, by road, by rail, by water, and that access is safe, right?
Hmm.
Um, Good enough means that there is some level of comfort that is available. I will be able to get clean water if I
Hmm.
need
Hmm.
clean water, which is, I think, it's a basic that a lot of people are always scared of traveling to remote places. Is will I get clean water? Today, people can take their medicine with them, right? So people are not longer worried. People are, will I get sick? And if they get sick, provided they know there is a way to get out, yeah. Then the how is the experience offered? I think that is one that is most important. How is this different and how is it unique?
And I think
What makes
also, apart from water, I also think sanitation.
Yes,
What do
of
you think?
course. Yeah, water and sanitation always goes together. Yeah. And that's why I say people need some level of hygiene and confidence
Hmm.
about the place. So these days, when you're communicating like a place, it's a new place and you're opening it up for the first time, the best again is word of mouth, is to bring those who sell places like this or other operators, what they call familiarization trips in tourism. Get a few people to come and familiarize and let them be the ones that tell your story.
Hmm.
Let them be the ones that tell your story.
It's like giving a trial product to
Yes.
somebody to taste, or if
Yeah.
it is a food or a drink,
Yeah.
you give
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
trial research. Yeah,
True.
that's
Mm,
so good. That's such a great idea.
mm.
Judy, what do you think about India? What thoughts come to your mind when you hear the word India?
I have just returned from India.
Wow.
I was in, I think, is that Rajasthan or Jaipur? Because I went to Udaipur and I went to Bangalore.
Hmm.
Yeah. And it was not my first time to come to India. I have been to India before. I have been to Jodhpur and I have been to Dharamsala
Hmm.
before. Of course, I have transited through Mumbai and through Delhi. I think I have spent a night in Delhi while connecting flights sometime in the past. I have not spent a night in Mumbai. But
What
my
is your
experience,
impression?
that's what I'm saying. That when I talk about my impressions, I want it to be clear that it is for the places that I have been to, and so
Okay.
that I'm qualifying my statements. I don't want to generalize because by being in
Ah,
those places, I cannot claim to know India, right? I can only
absolutely.
claim to know where I have been and the people that I have met. So when I think about Dharamsala, the Tibetans come to mind, right? Because of the monasteries, the monks, and the places that I went. I visited a number of those places, like the monastery of the Dalai Lama. So there's that whole element of India providing refuge for Tibetans. that sits with me very well, the compassion that they have allowed them. And when you go there, and I went there a few times, and you hear the stories of acceptance and compassion and how they've been integrated into the Indian society. I see a compassionate part of India. Going through Delhi and through Mumbai, then you know that life is fast and it's survival for the fittest because of the sheer number of people. The number of people, how they get along, the vehicles on the road, the everything, how it all works is like a miracle, right? How everything moves in those big cities. It's nothing short of a miracle. When you look at Mumbai and you look at the buildings and the skyscrapers and how high they have gone, yeah, the skyline of Mumbai is fascinating, right? The one thing that I love about India is the food. I love lots of curry and chili in my food, and I enjoy food in India. I'm not afraid of the curry, even of the chili. They were telling me this time, oh, you know, our food is very hot. I said, bring it on. they
You
were
know,
they were amazed. Yeah, I love Indian food. Yeah.
so do you is the Kenyan food spicy? Do you have
No,
chilies? Okay.
a few people love to add the chili to, but generally our food is not spicy.
So on the scale of 1 to 10, if 10 was Indian food, how much would be Kenyan food on the spice scale?
One.
Okay. So it's
Yeah.
completely bland.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure it has some it has more taste than the British food.
Of course, yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
if you could meet three people, living or dead, and go on a lunch with them,
Hmm.
who would they be?
One person that I would love to meet is of course, I talked about the Tibetans, so it would be nice to meet the Dalai Lama. Yeah, just to listen to. Sometimes I call it the wisdom from the East. You know, their whole perception about life, right? And how they live life with limits. I call it
Hmm.
temperance. How they just manage to live within those limits and yeah, and manage to conquer what I call human greed. So I'll be interested to meet that spiritual leader.
What
Uh,
question? What question would you ask him? If you could ask one question, what question would it be?
what has kept your hope alive for the Tibetans?
Hmm.
Yeah. What is it that has kept your hope alive? Do you still have
Hmm.
hope in humanity? Yeah. And why? Why so? That's a question that I would like to. I would ask him if I would meet him.
And do
Uh,
let me know the answer.
I'll let you know the answer. Maybe that day will come. Did you say when you say three, you make it complex? You should have just said one. That's the one
Uh,
person.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can think of other two, then it's okay. Otherwise, I have another fact about Kenya. That first Nobel Peace Prize was won by a woman was from Kenya, and she
Hmm.
got it for sustainable development.
Hmm. She's a role
Uh,
model. I admired her. Wangari
you admired
Maathai,
her.
professor. Yeah. Hmm.
Did you like what time period was she in? Did you get to meet or talk to her?
Yes, yes, I did, and I know people who are close to her,
Hmm.
who are related with her, who I have worked with, who are related to her. I got to sit maybe once in a same conference with her, and
Hmm.
we were both speakers. She was the chief keynote speaker, and I was also a speaker. and
Wow.
so I had a chance to share a platform with
That's
her.
incredible.
Yeah.
You're in sustainable tourism and she's in sustainable development. So it's a very
Yeah.
same field.
Yeah, it's
And
almost the same space. Yeah.
her name, for
Mm.
the audience, curious audience, Wangari Maathai.
Mm-hmm.
Wangari Maathai. That's her name. You can
Yeah,
Google her.
Professor Wangari Maathai.
So if you could meet her again today or tomorrow, what is one question you would ask her?
Sadly, we lost her. She passed on. So I would not have a chance to meet her and ask her any question.
No, it's imaginary, living or dead. So anybody, what if she
uh,
came? If she was here, if you could have lunch with her, what question would you ask?
I would ask her the question why she was unbowed in her quest to change how governance and governments perceive the environment. I think that
Unbored.
that
What do you mean?
she was bold. She was very
Uh,
bold.
hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Despite knowing that this was not an agenda for many developing countries. She faced a lot of persecution in Kenya from the government for trying to defend forests. And today, one of the forests that we have within Nairobi city um, is because she stood with her life in the middle of the forest and said, before you take over the forest, you will have to kill me." And of course, she was persecuted. She was thrown in jail. She was attacked. But she never gave up. Then we have two. We've got one of the main city parks in Nairobi called Uhuru Park. It was meant to be converted into a business and commercial center. She stood up, and she and other women went on a hunger strike, fasting in that park for many days without food until the government said we have dropped the plan to build in this park. It will remain a park. So she's phenomenal in many ways, a phenomenal, inspirational. She was a fighter. She was bold. She spoke to authority boldly, courageously. She worked with women to empower them, but mainly she encouraged everyone to plant trees.
Mm-hmm.
She said that once the last tree has been cut and the last river has dried, we will know that we cannot eat money.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Yes.
It's something to ponder upon. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Judy, what are you curious about?
What I'm curious about, I'm curious, and this, as I sit here today, I'm curious about AI and what it will mean for my generation, my next generation, my grandchildren. I'm so curious about what kind of world they will live in.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm scared. I'm scared that they will miss out on interpersonal human relations. That they will be exposed more to artificial intelligence about things that the human interactions and emotional intelligence will be affected, because I see it already. I see it already with
Absolutely.
a generation that is lacks or is challenged when it comes to emotional intelligence. And so I just wonder what will happen. What will happen? I'm so curious about. I'm afraid. I'm almost scared of it. Yes.
Uh, do you feel scared about the VR and AR experiential entertainment? Do you think they are a threat for wildlife tourism?
Yes, they could be. They are. Yeah, they are a threat, and that's why I say the whole AI is really. It's a space that maybe of my generation and my age. Maybe there is a generation that's not scared, that believes that that is the way it should be, that's how it should be. But
Because
you
if you put
think about it, and
Mhm.
if artificial intelligence will enable me to have an experience like I am in Masai Mara, why would I even go there? And does that relationship, does it build confidence enough for me to stand up and fight for wildlife? You see, if I've been to a park and I've seen wildlife in its natural setting, I will understand that it needs space. It's a different thing seeing it on screen. On the ground, it needs space. So if it has to compete for that space with other things, then I will not have a chance to see it on my screen. But if all I ever get to see is the animal on the screen, I will not understand the intricacies of loss of habitat, what loss of habitat means for them, the threats and the conflicts that exist, you know. It's a whole different ball game when you see wildlife on a screen and when you see it on the ground. So yes,
Hmm.
I'm afraid. I'm scared.
Because it's not just the screen. If you put on a VR headset that gives you a 360-degree view, you can just like you'll feel as if you are
Exactly.
in Masai Mara. But the
Yeah.
one thing it cannot do is give you surprises. It
Yes.
cannot give those intricate movements with the localites or something that happens without you planned. I mean, that's why
Yes.
we remember tours, something
Yeah.
that happened without a
The
planning.
planning. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
So
And then
I think.
it removes the attachment, you know. It removes the
Hmm.
attachment to the reality, and that's a big, yeah, that's a threat.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay, so you talked about eating money when we won't be able to eat money. But this is one of the signature questions. How to make money?
We all need money, but we all need to appreciate, like Wangare used to tell us, as you make money, think about other things and the environment and the place of nature in your life. Your life is not about the money. You are a being in an ecosystem. You are part of an ecosystem, and you cannot live on money without that ecosystem. So you need the money, but you cannot exist exclusively with money
Hmm.
without the ecosystem. So you can get all the money that you want in the world, but if the air is not clean, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
If the soil cannot produce food, right? For you. Today people say, oh, maybe food can be produced artificially. These days we can make artificial things and eat them. How healthy are they for your body? How much of them can you consume? Yeah, you
Hmm.
get the money, you have a shorter lifespan. So everything has got its consequences. And I think that was the big message for Wangari when she talked about you will realize you cannot eat money. She wanted to make it that literal that, you know what? Yeah, there is a choice to be made. You can choose to have a balance so that as you make money, you do not destroy the ecosystem in which you operate in.
Hmm. Or probably you can think about money as a reward, and the more the community grows, that's a bigger reward you get.
Maybe,
In
but I also look at it this way that we are better off thriving than being profitable.
yeah. I like that quote. Better of thriving than being profitable. Yes, absolutely.
I think that's a good note to end.
Absolutely. Yes. Spot on. Thank you so much for being a guest today. It was a great talking to you and listening to all your amazing insights. Any parting word for the audience?
I would
Anything?
my parting word for the audience. I would really just want to repeat the same quote that I love so much from the late Professor Wangari Maathai, the first woman Nobel laureate from Kenya, who said, "Once you have cut down the last tree, once the last river has dried, you will find out that you cannot eat your money. Think about that.
All right. And one question from me. How was your experience on the podcast today?
The experience on the podcast today, the diversity of the questions, I was not prepared for some of them. But it's diverse, so I don't know whether it runs in one show or it runs in different shows. Yeah, but it was broad, a little bit challenging for some of the other questions because I was prepared for the sustainable tourism discussion. So the other ones caught me a little off guard, but yeah, good
Did you have
discussion.
a good time? Did you have a good time?
Yes, I did. Yeah, yeah. You realize that when we started talking sustainable tourism, I was like fish in water.
Yeah, in your own territory.
Yes.
And there's so many amazing insights. You are definitely a pro. I have worked in tourism.
Mm,
I used to conduct tours in Uttarakhand in the northern. There was a village where
mm,
I used to do it part time. So in summers, we used to take school kids, 15 to 20 years old,
mm,
and they used to spend one night in the village, help them do the farming or whatever the local things they're doing. One
mm,
kid per house and
mhm.
20 or 30 kids, and then they used to come and build a temple or do some activities together. And that became very memorable for them. So
Oh,
maybe we
brilliant.
can
Excellent. Yeah.
do that to more
Okay.
places. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for having me.
This episode is brought to you by Tanmay Shah. That's me. Best way to support this show is by sharing this with your friends and dropping a comment and review on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. You can become my patron and a sponsor. That's not all. You can buy Rocklaz merchandise and NFTs and much more. See all the links in description for details. Rocklaz Radio with Tanmay Shah.
Rocklaz Radio.
Rocklaz.
Rocklaz Radio with Tanmay Shah.